People of the world, welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language. This, the 263rd episode. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around. Our guest today is a good friend of mine. We have been working together for many years. He did the impossible. He started his own personal injury firm with a partner, and they have been very successful. He is a trial attorney, and that's what you need to understand. A lot of these guys and gals out there who are attorneys, they don't want to go to trial because you can make no money. Imagine that. You go to trial and you lose. Well, why did you spend all of those attorney resources? Attorneys, by the way, make a little bit of money. So if you're the person hiring the attorney, you go to trial and it doesn't work out, well, then you just spent a lot of money on a bad investment. But the difference, of course, between a trial attorney and just your random personal injury attorney that doesn't go to trial is that insurance companies are afraid of the trial attorneys because they are going to fight for more money for their clients that have been hurt. So you're going to want to stick around. But before we chat with Marcus, why don't we do a quick recap of the social media news? The Verge.com article, TikTok will start automating video removals for nudity and more in the US. Just goes to show that the algorithm is able to pick up on things like nudity, also copyright claims, those sorts of things, and automatically remove them. We've covered in the past Facebook content moderators getting PTSD from having to go through and literally get rid of racism, terrorism, violence, all this sort of thing. And now, of course, we have algorithms dealing with that. The most recent one coming to us from TikTok. TikTok, according to uk.finance.yahoo.com, tells employees to return to the office for 3 days a week. Again, our guest today is a personal injury attorney, deals with car accidents, that sort of thing. If you're going to force your employees to get into a car to go to an office building in 2021, well, then you are possibly endangering their lives. A popular short video app, TikTok, blah, 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 told its employees Monday that they'll be offering the option to work remotely for up to 2 days a week and return to the office, according to internal message. Y'all know my position on this. I think it is ridiculous to force employees in 2021 to hop into a car when you are a tech company like TikTok. Call me crazy. sfgate.com, we've got Google employees angered by hypocritical remote work policies, talking about more work policies as Google employees around the world make plans for post-pandemic work at the tech giant. Laura DeVicine won't be among them for months. She went back and forth with the company over a potential relocation. Fed up with Google's inflexible policies, she handed in her notice. So it just goes to show that these major tech companies, because they have this proprietary sort of software, they want you in the physical space, are actually behind the times. You've got smaller, more agile tech companies that are going to be able to offer better remote work options, which is a huge piece of the puzzle. According to the article in May, CEO Sundar Pichai unveiled plans for a, quote, hybrid work environment. Yeah, whatever that means. Final article for the day, Google launching new Drive for desktop, Mac and Windows app, backup and sync stops working. So if you're trying to get all of your files backed up, make sure you download Drive for desktop as opposed to the old thing. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned at the top of the show, our guest today, Marcus Berg, is the trial attorney that you want to work with if you are anywhere in the Las Vegas metropolitan area. He is a force of nature, super smart, fighting on behalf of his clients. You can just imagine him in a suit of armor with his sword, fighting on behalf of his clients. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, the one, the only, Marcus Berg.
Thank you. Great introduction.
Well, Marcus, here we are. We were chatting a bit backstage about doing it the right way. Okay. Now, everyone, I think, if they don't really search their heart and soul, thinks of personal injury attorneys as, you got money coming out your ears. You know, it's kind of easy. It's, you know, oh, it would be so nice if I were just doing that sort of thing. And of course, the reality is very different. You are fighting battles for people's medical bills. These people are suffering. Take me into the war zone. What's it like?
Yeah, I mean, there's no real easy money. You know, a lot of people have a misconception that you just come in, hey, they pay you 3 times the medical bills, settled the case. You just have to have a lawyer as a formality, and that just isn't the case. I understand that it used to be back in like the 80s. They used to just chalk up the bills and you'd get 3 times them and everyone would walk away with a bunch of money. But insurance companies have really tightened up and it's very difficult. I mean, a lot of the offers that we get these days, even when you have an attorney, they're only willing to pay your medical bills and then, a couple $100 on top of them. And they think, oh, you can go make it work. I've had adjusters tell me you can get reductions from the doctors, you can make this work, but it's not a fair amount of money. And so there's a lot of work that goes into it. I'd say, nowadays it's probably like 40-50% of the cases we're having to file lawsuits on just to get fair offers. They'll just come out of the gates with these really bad offers and make you scratch and claw just to get 2 times the medical bills, which doesn't really go very far. But it's a matter of how much time you're willing to put in. And, a lot of attorneys just are overloaded with cases and they don't have the resources. They have really small firms. And so they just jam offers down people's throats and tell them, this is the offer that's being made, you should take it. And they move on. It's a difficult position to be in as an attorney because, especially when you're looking towards going to trial. Most attorneys don't want to do that. They don't want to have to put their own resources up. They don't want to have to put their time up. A lot of attorneys are unfortunately lazy. And so, you run into that predicament where what's in your client's best interest isn't necessarily in your best interest.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, every business has to remain solvent or there is no business. And so there is always this tightrope walking when it comes to doing things like hiring attorneys, which you've done recently. You have 3 attorneys, if I remember correctly, on staff. And you and your partner obviously are excluded from that. So are you 5 attorneys in total?
That's correct.
And how many staff members?
Total, we've got 21 people at the firm.
So with 21 people on payroll, W-2, payroll taxes, QuickBooks, invoicing, the whole 9 yards, you're running a business on top of, trying to help these people. How difficult is it to try to balance what's best for the client with just the realities of being a business owner?
It's not. We've set ourselves up in a way that we don't have to worry about that. We have plenty of cases. We've got plenty of resources. One of the things that's been really instrumental for us is getting a line of credit to fund our clients' cases. So we don't have to worry about money coming out of our pockets to pay for costs. We have a line of credit and we get all that money advanced. And so we can run up the bill and compete with the insurance companies and spend just as much as they can. And ultimately, when we're successful down the road, either at trial or settling the case, we pay our line of credit back and we're good to go. And that's one of the things that's really opened up the doors because a lot of firms just don't have those type of resources, especially people starting out or solo practitioners. They're just not able to fund their clients' cases. One of the firms I used to work for, the managing partner used to say, well, I can't wait to wind up this firm so I can get all my cost money back. That's a real consideration for some people. They're floating hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars out there. And, when we've set ourselves up in a position where we didn't have to overextend ourselves, that allowed us to really put our clients first. And so, it's just, most of these cases are a matter of principle. They're a matter of doing right by our client and getting what our client wants. And, ultimately, a lot of times that decision is up to our clients and we're willing to push forward, but they're not. They just don't have the gamble in them. And, one of the things I tell them a lot of the times is, you have one case, I have hundreds. So you need to make this decision for you. Because believe it or not, a lot of clients do ask me, what would you do in my spot? And that is one of the most difficult questions to answer. I don't know their whole life history. I don't know, their proclivity for gamble or risk. A lot of people just want certainty, which is also what insurance companies want. So that's why a lot of cases settle. But ultimately, we like to give our clients that choice. And, if they want to go get justice, we're happy to go get it for them because, we love to go to trial. It's the ultimate equalizer. And not that many cases go to trial because you just have to have that perfect storm, right? You have to have a client that's willing to do it. You have to have a case that's worthwhile. And, a lot of cases just end up settling before you get there.
I want to show. I think that now is time, given that the fiction that I've seen throughout my entire life with major names, including William Shatner, Boston Legal, Oh, such a good show.
Never watch legal shows, by the way. Can't do it.
Oh, I can't watch shows about teachers. I can't watch shows about marketing companies either, to be honest with you. I'm like, really? We just sit around and drink scotch all day? No, we do not. In our giant New York offices. I think it's time for a show that really walks people through the reality of what's like. It would be tricky, obviously, to find a client that would be interested in doing that. But I can see sitting down with a client. I can envision maybe you could do like 4 or 5 stories simultaneously. You have the client that's going to go to trial, and then you have the client that's like, look, I'm not willing to take this risk. And that, to me, that moment for you is a fairly ubiquitous, normal, sort of run-of-the-mill. I've never been anywhere near that moment. And it's fascinating from my perspective going through the mental hurdles of understanding that the American legal system is based, it's like a craps table.
I think that a mediation setting would be really interesting too, where they're being offered something and they either have the opportunity to turn that down or accept it. And you could see in a situation, maybe somebody turn it down and go get more. I've had it happen where somebody turned it down, went to trial and got less. And that would have made a great episode. This person he had a total misconception of what was going to happen at trial. And the minute he got off the stand, his mind was blown. He said, I had no idea. I thought I was just going to be able to go up there and tell my story. And the judge kept making him answer the specific question. And he was boxed in and he couldn't, relate to the jury like he wanted to. And ultimately it sunk his case.
I mean, these judges, to have arrived as a judge, you have passed through a gauntlet that is fire and then spears and then arrows, and you're doing this and that. You're still a person. You still have your biases. You still have a personality. But I can only imagine, because, for example, as a business owner, I was sitting down with a potential vendor. We had signed on and they gave us a little bit of the runaround. Okay. And we had realized that we had been sold a bill of goods. And this was after I had vetted them, and they've got a 30-day refund policy. So we'll get our money back. But I was on a call with my representative, and I'm like, stop talking, stop, fix it. And we moved on. So I can be very short and not so friendly and smiley and all those things in a professional setting when we're playing for real. When it's, you're taking money away from my bonuses for my staff, and that's not okay. And you're not delivering on what you said you would. And so I can only imagine just how short a judge could be with someone if they feel like the truth needs to come out. Do you find that they can be harsh?
I've had many battles. I'm thinking of one right now where it was so frustrating, and I turned my back to the judge and was just seething because I couldn't get in the evidence that I wanted. And, he kind of laughed like it was a game. And, people's, lives are at stake here, right? It's somebody's financial compensation that is being altered a lot by whether or not that evidence can come in. It was a trial that was a couple of years ago where, it was a difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars because, the foreperson told me afterwards that she started at over $1 million, and the verdict ended up only being $150,000 because, jurors were reminding them we're not supposed to consider that evidence. And, there was a tug of war back there. And so things can really swing and shape by what a judge decides. They really do have a lot of power in a jury trial setting.
It's, it is just absolutely, it is drama on the highest level, and it's drama for real, and not drama in the sense of, high school, the stakes are only emotions and how you perceive yourself and ego, but drama in the sense of their children's college funds will be filled or not, they will pay off their mortgage or not, they will be compensated for this injury or not. And so I'm reminded of a recent Knights game. Fleury just botched it. flurry. The goaltender just messed up behind the goal, may have cost the Vegas Golden Knights the entire season. And the perspiration, the anxiety, the PTSD that follows that is more than most folks are willing or able to suffer. And people playing at the highest levels, and it's usually financial. If you look at actors that are at the top of their game, lawyers that are at the top of their game, pick any profession you like, you're willing to be in, for example, in your case, a courtroom where someone may as well stab you in the heart, right? That's what it feels like, because you're desperately trying to get what's right for your client and the judge just ain't having it. What's that feel like?
That's tough. It's, but that's why you prepare, right? I mean, we put so much work. It isn't just showing up to trial. Personal injury is a lot different. Civil cases are a lot different. Criminal trials, you can wing those a little more. A lot of them have the same issues, but every personal injury trial is pretty unique. And so one of the things we really like to do to prepare is run focus groups. And in those focus groups, we can basically mirror or mimic a jury that we would get, and we can present them with different factual issues. We can present them with different factual scenarios where we can provide for, hey, maybe the judge won't let this evidence in. Let's see what the focus group says without it. And so, you can't focus every variable, but you can do enough where you can have a good idea. But really all you can do is prepare. I mean, you obviously have to think on your feet, and there's things that you can do, but you have to roll with the punches. Certain things aren't going to come in. Certain things aren't going to go your way at trial, and you move on. You have, plan B. Yeah, you go with it, and ultimately you just try to put on the best case that the judge allows you to put on.
I so desperately want to produce a show and sell it to Netflix, because there are so many scenes here, and I'm reminded of any actor, musician, where there's a culmination. And this is what a lot of people don't understand is, if you're going to go play in front of 10,000 people as the lead singer in a band, what do you think you're not thinking about it the night before? You think that, Queen in their heyday, Green Day, Incubus, you don't think they realize that they're going to go spend, an hour in front of 20,000 people, that the lead singer of the band isn't checking his throat, the days leading up to it, kind of being like, am I getting sick? Am I going to, there is so much stress that goes into preparation for the moment, that if you don't ever play in that space, it's hard to empathize. It's hard to understand, but we all have little moments like that. It's like a wedding is a good example. You're going to be up there, and you're going to have to do your vows, and you think about it, you ruminate and you stress and you worry. And the fact that Marcus and his team have these focus groups tells you so much about their willingness to fight the battle before the battle's begun, right? So I can only imagine what you learn in a focus group. It must be very enlightening.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, most of the people that we deal with are lawyers, and lawyers think in straight lines, and we don't see things from the same perspective as these potential jurors that we have on focus groups. And so a lot of times they'll tell us things that we never even saw in our own case. And it's really eye-opening a lot of times, the things that they focus on when they're viewing a case. And so it kind of shapes the way we present it. And, I think about other lawyers, it's a hurdle just to go to trial for a lot of lawyers. Most lawyers have tried one case in their lifetime at most. I'm talking personal injury lawyers. And, just to get there, that's one thing. To actually do it right, that's a whole different level. And you don't know what you're doing wrong or how to do it right until you've had enough experience. And, I like to think of us at the stage where we're young enough to still be hungry, but we have enough experience to really carry the day. We've done dozens of jury trials, and most people that have done that many, they're out golfing somewhere, they're out vacationing somewhere. They've paid their dues. They're not doing it anymore. They let their young associates try the cases. And so that's why I think we're uniquely positioned, because we still are hungry. We still want to do this. We still want to achieve great results for our clients, and we're willing to put in the time, and we know how to do it right.
Studio musician versus arena musician is the way I would make that parallel. The willingness to get in front of the judge, get in front of the trial, to plead your case and to do it yourself. And do you invite some of your younger attorneys to trial to watch and understand what's going on and see this?
Yeah, and a lot of times we'll have them help with the presentation, like they'll run the PowerPoint, or they'll help with the demonstrative exhibits, or write briefs outside, or prepare witnesses, get people ready to go. You can't do it alone. There's just so much that goes into trial that you can't do it alone. You got to be organized, and you've got to delegate.
Now, when I talk about sales, I talk about it in the best possible terms. When I say sales, many folks think about it as a horrible thing, as a used car salesperson who's just trying to take your money. So you can easily take a look at it from that perspective. That's fine. When I say sales, I'm talking about advertising. I'm talking about the Latin root advertere, which means to turn toward. I'm talking about the juror who is lost in thought, the juror that's no longer paying attention to you. Shout out to Brad Hess in chat. Good to see you, buddy. I'm talking about sales in the same way that if you want your children's education to be private and your spouse does not, you have to sell your spouse on that idea. I'm talking about sales in the purest sense. Now, a trial attorney has to sell these jurors on a dollar amount. And for an associate attorney, am I saying that right?
Yep.
There is no substitute for them experiencing, literally soaking up the atmosphere of the theater of law as it stands in 2021. And if you're going to choose a firm that does not do that, well, then you don't have to be the sharpest pencil in the coloring box to understand that you want to go with a team that does that.
Yeah, I think that is one of you hit it on the head. I remember a trial where a fellow attorney was in the audience watching. And when I got to my close and I threw up the number, I forget what it was, $3 million, he said that the jurors were not ready to hear that number. And so, that was a really big lesson learned. You've got to prime it. You've got to get them thinking about those numbers when you first start talking to them. That's in jury selection or voir dire. When you first start talking to the jury, you got to ask them if they have a problem with, I'm going to be asking for $3 million. Does anyone have a problem with that? The way I did it in that trial was I asked them, is there any, number that's too big, and, let them kind of pick their own, but I didn't prime it properly. And so when I threw out that number, they weren't prepared. But again, somebody younger, somebody without the experience who a jury can tell, they're just going to be in there thinking, this person's dreaming. How are we going to follow this person? As the trial lawyer, we want to lead. We want that jury to look at me and say, okay, that's who I'm going to follow. That's who, when I go back into the deliberation room, I'm going to be thinking, okay, this is what Marcus said. I trust him. I'm going to follow him. And, that, again, like you said, you're selling them on a number. We have the burden of proof to prove why our case is worth what we're saying it's worth. And so, I always want to be the most reasonable guy in the room. But, getting those high numbers out there, you've got to justify it, and you've got to make it make sense to the jury.
High numbers are in themselves a language. If I begin to speak in another language, you will have a visceral response to that. You will have a biochemical cocktail of either cortisol or dopamine. You will react, and this is anyone, Marcus, you, the listener, whomever, to 我会说中文，你会说中文吗? Right? There is some sort of, it's a grin on Marcus. I can tell just the slightest little sort of, like this weird dude speaking Chinese. When we hear 3 million, when I'm talking to a client, if I can't wrap my head around saying that'll be 4,000 a month, that'll be 12,000. The website, that's 15,000. I myself have a reaction to the number, and we all do. And it's interesting to me that you mentioned throwing out that number to gauge that reaction, because individuals in jury selection, you're going to be able to see these micro reactions, or they might just laugh. They may laugh out loud. You say 3 million. And so I can only imagine the nuance that goes into from start to finish on a major case. I'm talking amputee. I'm talking major lifelong suffering, brain injury. You've got to understand, listeners, that, Marcus has to sit across from people whose lives are forever changed. They are not coming back to who they were before. And they are trusting that, given Marcus's and team's ability, that they are going to fight like hell to get them compensation. And so forget about the money for a second. The karmic burden, the soul burden of knowing that these people have put their faith in you, that's no small thing.
That's it. Their future depends on the result. And a lot of people aren't willing to gamble on that, so to speak, because you just never know what a jury's going to do. But that's why we focus group cases. That's why we prime the focus group first. So we're throwing out those numbers with the focus group, and a lot of them will tell you, there's no way I'd ever give anyone more than $1 million. My life isn't worth that. That's like hitting the lottery or something. In Vegas, we have some people that have different outlooks on it, right? They see these jackpots and they go, oh, that's nothing. We saw this jackpot just hit the other day, the lucky, but the reality is it's got to be based in something. And so we try to give them reasons why we're asking for that amount. This is going to be the amount for how much their medical bills are going to cost in the future. This is going to be the amount for, how much their home health care is going to cost when they, start debilitating. But ultimately that's why it's important to have focus groups, because they can give you an idea if you're on the right track or not. I had a friend who had a serious injury, and it was just when I was starting out our firm 9 years ago, and I just couldn't get out there. It was in Chicago, and I really wanted to help him. So the only thing I could think of was, I'll run a focus group for your case. It was going to trial the next week. And the focus group came back and told me that he should be asking for $2 million. And his attorney was going to trial and preparing to ask for $600,000. And he had to beg his attorney, you got to ask for more. This focus group's telling me, we got to ask for $2 million. My injury is real. It's, he had a really bad Achilles injury with, the whole plate and screws in his ankle. And his attorney goes, well, all right, I'll ask for a little more, but this is a Vegas focus group. This is Chicago. It's a totally different venue. So he ended up asking for $1.2 million. The jury came back in deliberations and said, can we give more than what the plaintiff asked for? And the judge goes, yeah, you can do whatever you want. So, hours go by, jury comes back again. So we can give more than $1.2 million, right? Judge says, yeah, give whatever you want. Jury came back, awarded $2 million. I mean, spot on focus group in a different venue, different city. But it really helped. I was able to help my friend out because his lawyer just didn't have the confidence in the case, wasn't going to ask for if he only asked for $600,000, they might have had the same reaction, but given him $1 million. So, luckily he listened and he upped his ask, but that's just a key example of how good focus groups can be for steering you in the right direction.
And there are simply attorney firms after attorney firms that will not do focus groups. They will not go to trial. Ladies and gentlemen, if this has not sold you on working with the Moss Berg Injury Group, I don't know what will. I simply do not know what will. Maybe a show, Maybe binge watching, 4 episodes of a documentary might do it for you. If you are a video producer and you are interested in a project like that, why don't you reach out to us? You can shoot me an email, info@senditrising.com. That's info@senditrising.com. youtube.com/senditrising is where you can go to watch the live show, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, every single Monday through Friday. If you're watching us on iTunes, listening to us on iTunes, Spotify, or the 10 other podcast platforms that we are currently available on, we love you. Our numbers have been growing a lot recently, and we genuinely appreciate it. We'd love to see you swing on by the live show, chat right there, youtube.com/senditrising. The show, of course, Marketing as a Foreign Language, brought to you by Send It Rising, the advertising agency that I happen to own. Internet marketing, all shapes and sizes, WordPress websites, search engine optimization, SEO, pay-per-click, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, etc. Could not be happier with our guest today, Marcus Berg. Wow, what an interview. Really, really exciting stuff. The drama is real. People's lives are at stake. Marcus, I want to make sure that you have a chance to pitch, let folks know where they should go, how they should reach out to you if they know of someone who has been hurt. Where exactly can you help them? Let's say they're in Vegas, let's say they're in Utah, that sort of thing. What should they do? Where should they go?
Thanks, Kellen. Thanks for having me. Marcus Berg, Moss Berg Injury Lawyers. We serve the Valley, and that's pretty much it. We're not anywhere else but Nevada. We like to focus here. That's where we're licensed, but you can find us at mossberginjurylaw.com, 702-222-4555. And remember, we take all of our cases on a contingency fee basis, so we're not charging anything up front or out of pocket.
You can't beat him. You just cannot beat him. Marcus and I have been working for years. I've known Marcus for years. He's got a picture of his daughter up there, picture of his wedding right behind him. He's a stand-up dude, family guy. You simply, there is just no better choice, hands down. They do the work, and really impressed. Very grateful to have Marcus in my life. Final words of wisdom, Mr. Berg, for the fine folks.
Final words of wisdom. One of my favorite quotes is, "There's no substitute for hard work." If you have an attorney or you're hiring your attorney based on work ethic, you need to see how many trials they've done. You need to interview them. You need to know who they are, what they're about, because you don't want just any attorney. You don't want somebody just passing you off to an associate, which a lot of firms do. You only have one case, so make sure that you choose wisely and hire somebody who's going to be in your corner the whole way.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. This is Marketing as a Foreign Language, episode 263,